Today I have here the brand new Batman 89 6-scale figure from Hot Toys. Is it going to be a disappointment or am I going to like it? I haven't looked at it yet, so let's dig on in together. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Collector's Outpost. I am John. I have been waiting to get my hands on a 1989 Batman figure for a while. I do have a Batman Returns figure, which I really love. And I missed out on the first release of 89 Batman, which I believe was over a decade ago now. So I was beyond happy when they announced this figure, a year or so back, year and a half ago, and I immediately pre-ordered it. But as far as a month or two back, pictures have been coming out and videos have been coming out, and I've been seeing a lot of disappointed people about the texture of the suit, about the mouth plate sculpts that don't look like Michael Keaton. So let's check this out and see if it's gonna be a disappointment or not. But before we do, if you are new here, thanks so much for stopping by and checking out the channel and this figure with me. Please help out the channel by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification button down below. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming on back and checking out this Batman 89 figure with me. Let's get into this unboxing. Now, I have not opened this box yet. Let's get the little razor out and get on in here. All right, everything is unpacked. You have all the accessories laid out. Now, I did not get the diorama piece, the deluxe version, simply because there is just no room anywhere in any of these displays or even in my mover rooms of something so big. And from what I hear, the diorama base doesn't even fit into these DTOF cases. So I would have had to have made a separate shelf just to display that. But I am more than happy with everything that is here except for this base, and I'll tell you why in a moment. All right, now let's start going over some of the accessories. This hand is really that push hand, if you remember in that scene where this little plate, this little stopper plate comes out and catches the guy right in the nutsack. But we do get a good assortment of hands here. We have that pushy hand that I just showed you. We have a grip hand. It looks like possibly to grab on to this, maybe. And it looks like some Batarang grip hands here. There's some decent sculpting on the hands, really nothing big. There's no weathering or anything, so it looks pretty darn accurate. And we do have that awesome grappling gun here. And it does come apart, so you have it in two pieces. And there is a magnet in here that does go to the belt, but I don't think I'll ever use that or even put it on his belt. I probably wind up putting it back into the case. And we all know what this is. Where does he get those wonderful toys? This is really cool, but in the middle there is actually a spring. I'm worried about that kind of popping off. I don't know if it will, but this is another accessory that's just gonna go back into the box, but you have some nice articulation there, so you can get a couple of good poses and take some great photographs with this. But for me, it's going back in the box. And right here we have the Batarang, which does come attached to a rope. This was the coolest Batarang I think I've ever seen in the movies, when he comes down in that first scene and just whips that out and unfolds and he ropes that guy around the ankles. Now, do forgive me, I haven't seen this movie in quite some time. I don't remember what these canisters were for or if he even used them. Same thing with these kind of like bat Chinese stars here. I don't know if they were just accessories that were in the Bat Cave and I just didn't notice them, or I'm just not remembering. Maybe I should have watched the movie before I actually did this review, but whatever. You have these cool little accessories gonna end up back in the box. Now, when the Batmobile is driving and it pulls up to Batman and he says, stop, he's holding this remote control. So that's what this little guy is. I'll try to zoom in a little bit more, but there's a little bat logo right there. So he does have separate moving eyes, and here's the eye tool to move them around. And another accessory that I'm just gonna put back in a box, but I guess it's cool for photography. This is Vicky Vale's shoe that she drops on the staircase in the bell tower. Now you'll also see these two separate sticks here. These actually thread right into the cape, and it's gonna look a lot like that opening scene. Now this stand here, this stand is a little disappointing because it came with what used to be LEDs. So my last stand that I have that looks exactly like this, you could put batteries in here, which they just kind of sealed off. But they left these little moving parts, so this actually does move and you can kind of rotate it around where the LEDs used to be, and you can focus the light facing up towards him. But I hate when they give you used parts and they leave everything in there that could have been lit up. Like, why couldn't we have had a USB coming out of here with a couple LED lights? I don't know, feels like a missed opportunity, Hot Toys. I But on the front, we have the metal plate that says Batman, and we have the logo here, along with a crotch grabber post in the back there. All right, so here's one of the face plates. We'll put it on to see what it really looks like, but it has all of the blood and cuts and everything on it. More like what he looked like at the end of the movie. And I'm gonna say this right now, I hate this one. I don't even understand this one. Let's check out this figure. We'll try out the different mouth plates to see which one looks the best. We'll check out the suit and the cape and how much articulation this figure has. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm standing about 3 or 4 feet away from the figure, and just looking at it, this thing looks fantastic. It's really not as bad as everybody makes this figure out when you're standing this far away. How often are you gonna be half an inch from this figure to really see the problems? But it's definitely not perfect. Let's punch in and take a look. All right, let's start right up over here with the cowl, the eyes, and the faceplate. Now, honestly, I think the cowl looks really, really good. The cowl in the movie does have some texturing on it, and I think this is sculpted pretty nicely. The original one they had a whole section here that would open up and pull out, and you used to be able to adjust the eyes from there, but now you actually go in from underneath. So this is so much better. I think overall, the cowl itself looks very, very nice. So now, for most people, here's where everything starts getting a little weird. And even looking at this right now, I'm not really seeing a big resemblance to Michael Keaton here. He has a very, very specific mouth and chin line and creases around the mouth. I mean, is that terrible? I mean, you know, you're paying for a sculpt that looks like the person, and I don't know, it's there. I do see a little bit of a resemblance. Now here's the Batman Returns sculpt. I thought when I got this thing looked amazing. And honestly, I think it still looks more like Michael Keaton than the new version that we got here in the 89. Let's give you some profile there. I mean, I really do like the likeness in this faceplate here. And back to the 89 figure, you can see that there is quite a bit difference in the faceplate here. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the original version of 89 that they put out, but this Batman Returns is one of my favorite Batman figures in the collection here, so I really do love this thing. Moving on down to the main controversy. It's the texture of this suit. Now, I truly have no idea what reference material they were using to make this mold, but this is not what the bat suit looks like. Yes, there is a little bit of texture on there, but this is like dialed up to 500. Now, when you're looking at it this big on the screen, it's even more bothersome, but in person, when you're a few feet away, it's not too bad, but this, it's out of control. I do wish that they would have just matched the texture of the cowl. The cowl has much smoother texture than the suit on the body armor here. And I think a lot of people would have been a lot happier if they just went with a much smoother texture or just completely smooth altogether. I think people would have gone out of their mind for this figure. But with all of this weird texturing that does not resemble the movie, kind of really gets disappointing. Now, let me throw a few reference photos on the screen now of what the suit actually looks like. It's mostly smooth, so I don't really get where this texture came from. And that does carry into the arms and the pants as well. And now let's look at the bases, because this is what I was saying about the bases. The new 89 base is the exact same reused base as the Batman Returns base. If I had batteries in here, these LEDs do turn on and light up the figure, but it's the exact logo. They use the exact same base and just repaint the bat. I mean, for real, could that have gotten any lazier of Hot Toys? And if you have this Batman version, let's take a look. Pretty much the same base. All they did was add some steps on it with some snow, but it's got the same LED spots where you can light the figure up. Let's swap out the faceplate here. This was the one that came with it, and it should just pop out. He's got buck teeth and fish lips. This thing is going back in the box and never seeing the light of day again. Let me put up a couple of reference photos here of this belt, because I do believe this is the wrong color. The color should be more of a coppery kind of goldish color and not this bright yellow. I mean, I could really repaint that, I guess, but I do wish they got the color a little bit more accurate than this. Now, another thing about the belt is that it does have a magnet in it for the grappling gun. However, you do have to go in there and move this little capsule aside, and then you can pop that on the belt there. Now, I won't be doing that because anytime you want to pop that on, you do have to move this little capsule around, and that is kind of cutting in to the suit itself. So you do that too many times and you're going to wear out that front of the suit there, and I definitely don't want to do that. So we won't be doing that ever again. And moving on down to the Nikes. Now, this is all sculpted, so there is no movement really in the ankles at all. They should have really done some sort of split boot cut over here so that you could have gotten some decent articulation out of that, but we get really no movement there. And we got the armor plate gauntlets over here. I love these things. For whatever reason, I always really like these because he just blocks all the swords and everything with those. All right, now moving on into the cape. I do kind of like the fabric of this cape, but it doesn't really represent that like that pleathery, that rubbery look that the movie had. But I really don't have a problem with this cape. I really think the material is kind of nice. And we do have wires that are lining, looks like possibly 6 wires. We have 1, 2, and 3, nothing down the center. So they line the sides here. Look at that, that is so freaking cool, man. That is the opening scene right there. Now, having these wires is really cool because you can kind of really sculpt how you want the cape to sit. And oh man, this looks really cool. Look at this. I mean, super statue-like pose, but I am really digging that. It's just draping really nice and tight to him. I could probably just play with this cape all day, just trying different things. You know, I loved the over-the-shoulder look like we've seen in many promo shots and a bunch of times in the movie. And then we've seen that kind of look. You know, this could be really cool. I love when it drapes down just in front there. And the fact that it has wires in it, it's really allowing the cape to be shaped and stick closer to his body than the past capes that I've seen. The cape that came with the Batman Returns figure, that darn thing is impossible to sculpt. It's too thick, it doesn't have any wires in it, and it just sits really weird. I'm really digging how this cape looks. All right, I swapped out the hands, and what we're gonna do is put the sticks into the cape and try to recreate that opening scene shot. Now, right here, you'll see a little slit right at the edge where this should be able to slide right in. All right, and that is what's gonna hold up the cape. All right. Huh. I feel like it's putting way too much strain on the suit. And for whatever reason, can't really get the arms up. The suit is definitely preventing the arms from getting high enough. Oh, and the hand fell off again. That looks freaking terrible. I've seen people do it. I've seen photographs. I've seen a couple of reviews, and I just can't get this to sit right. And it is really, really pulling on the inside armpit of the suit there. Now, this is the problem that I'm seeing with getting the arms up. Now, you could see it's pulling really hard under the armpit there. And I feel like if I try to really get that pose that I want, I'm gonna tear the underneath of the armpit of the suit, and I really don't wanna do that. So I think for me, the arms out move is out. You can get this up a little bit, but the suit pulls it back down. We do have a bicep turn. All right, we got some nice articulation in the elbow. And let's try the ab. Oh, seems like we have some kind of like ratchet abs section in there. I guess they should have done ratchets on the arms, no? And we can get a little bit of a turn, but it's not gonna hold. This suit just pulls everything back to its default setting, basically. Same thing, those things, they just drop right back down. We have a good knee bend. Looks like we have a ratchet going forward, so that's pretty nice. So you can get that into a couple of decent poses there. And then, like I was saying, really nothing in the boot. All right, so I set him up in a simple pose with his batarang, kind of like that shot in the opening scene. Now, I do think a pose like this, very simple, is gonna be very effective for this figure and not really put a lot of stress on the suit. The wires in the cape really help animate the shot and make it very dynamic, even though it's pretty simple. These particular wires, unlike past wires in capes, these are actually working really well. I don't know if it's because of the fabric or they're just stronger wires, but look at how dynamic you can make the cape here. Now we're gonna take this same pose idea and maybe take it one step further. Now for the next pose, we're pretty much gonna keep it the same, but we're gonna move his eyes. Now inside, you can get in there with that little tool and move his eyes. I'm gonna turn his eyes over to this direction, to his left. Now the biggest problem I have doing this is that every time I touch eyes, I screw everything up and they never look right. So hopefully I can at least get these off to the left here. It is harder than you think to get eyeballs to look right. All right, here's one more pose. It's the same thing, we just kind of spread it out a little bit. I used one of the boxes from the Justice League figures to prop his foot on, and I raised his arm up a little bit and put the cape a little bit more in the wind. I'll be honest with you, with figures like this and these rubber suits, I find them really hard. I'm not a great poser to begin with, but I find these figures even harder to pose because there's so much resistance with every little movement that you do. So overall, my thoughts on this. Is it as bad as people have been saying it is? I don't know. I don't think they hit the mark with this figure, but I'm also happy that I have this figure now for my collection because I've wanted an '89 Batman for quite some time. I do think this figure has a lot of problems, but if you can look past some of those problems, I do think the figure's actually really cool. If you are like me and you missed out on the first version, this is not a bad option. All right, everybody, I think that's about it with this figure. I do wish it didn't have so many little problems, but I can look past a lot of these things. Why? Because I'm just really happy to have an '89 Batman in my collection now. Hot Toys, I do think you need to do better. Overall, I am happy with this figure, and it's gonna look great in the collection. Let me know what you think of this figure down in the comments below, and do help support the channel simply by hitting the like, subscribe, and notification button. All right, my friends, I will see you all on the next video. Be safe and kind out there in the world. See ya.